Hello and welcome to Healthy Happy Families with the Natural Parent. I'm Annaliese Jones, naturopath and medical herbalist, and today we're talking about energy. Now, I'm mostly aiming this at parents of new children, new babies, because that often is the time that we have the most problems with our energy, and obviously sleep deprivation has a lot to do with that. Honestly, sleep deprivation is killer. It really interferes with our energy at a cellular level, and it can lead to sort of feeling vague mentally, to making lots of mistakes, to not being able to have the motivation to actually give ourselves the self-care that we need to look after ourselves. So it's almost like a deficiency in sleep. There's a deficiency in self-care. We are behind on our resources often because of what goes into producing a baby. Pregnancy takes a toll, and I think we underestimate that when it comes to rebuilding ourselves post-pregnancy. And then of course there's breastfeeding. A lot of literally energy, calories, goes into producing milk. So it's a big issue, and I have mums primarily here in the clinic a lot complaining of low energy and just really at their wits' end. And so I just wanted to talk today about some of the basics that we want to tick off, and then there's a few specifics too that I'll go over. So first of all, you really want to get to the GP and get a few things tested. The basics as far as blood tests go, when we're talking about energy, are iron, B12 and your thyroid. Just get those checked. If your thyroid, if your B12 is sort of within range but a little low, I would still take some B12, and the same goes with iron. So if your iron's low and you get, a prescription of iron, but it's giving you constipation or headaches or sore tummies, please don't just stop taking it, which is the story I hear time and time again. Seek out an alternative. So find your local naturopath, go and have an in-depth consultation, or perhaps go to a health store and find an iron that actually suits your body, because it's just really crucial to energy. You want to sort that first before you start to move on to some other things. Obviously, you need to be thinking about nutrition. So I know it's easier said than done when you're just exhausted, but the main things to think about are obviously making sure you are drinking enough water, and then protein. So making sure there's some protein through your day. It might be that you pre-boil a dozen eggs and you just get someone else to peel them so that they're there in the fridge for you and you can just have those. Maybe it's protein shakes. Maybe, you can crack open a tin of tuna. It doesn't have to be fancy, but getting some protein in through your day does make a difference. Chow down on some nuts, even some legumes, depending on where you get your protein from. It really does make a difference. Get plenty of good fat. So just douse your meals in olive oil is an easy way to start. Nuts and seeds obviously give you some too. If you're okay with dairy, some cheese through the day, that kind of thing. We want to be getting some fats in. Like, honestly, do not be worrying about your weight at this time when you really just want to get your energy sorted. So when it comes to fuel, we want to make sure we're getting enough. Unfortunately, I do see a lot of mums that are worried about what they're eating, and they're not fueling themselves enough while they're breastfeeding and sleep deprived to have the energy. So that's just a little sort of mental hurdle that we all need to get over. Easier said than done, but don't avoid carbs, don't avoid fat, don't intermittent fast and all of those things when you're sleep deprived and feeding a baby. That's not really the time for some of these different ways of eating. I made a little note here as well. Yes, we also want to make sure, so getting onto some of the natural medicine, so tick those basics off, the nutrition obviously, ask for help. All of those sort of basic things obviously are really important, so that you can get a little bit of quiet time, you can maybe sleep, that sort of thing. I know that's not possible for everybody, but it's worth mentioning in case you haven't thought of it. And then as far as natural medicine goes, what we want to be thinking about is making sure that we're supporting our adrenals and our adrenal energy, which really means, from my perspective as a herbalist, there are some herbs that we use. And one of the most common herbs that we use is ashwagandha or withania. this lovely one here. Now, this particular herb is really great for energy, but the really nice thing about it is it doesn't make you buzzy. Oh, just on that, we need to cut caffeine too. Unfortunately, I know we're using it for energy, but unfortunately, it just blows out your energy and makes it worse, revs up your adrenals. Just not a great idea. And I know that's the hardest thing to cut out sometimes, but go for decaf. If you're needing to get out to catch up with some mums, or just have some time out of the house, or you just love that moment making you an espresso, totally get it. The ceremony of it's important, but the caffeine is actually in the long term going to make you more exhausted. So even just the one a day, I would really recommend for this period in your life when you're just adjusting to being a parent, and you're really sleep deprived, that you should try and keep your caffeine to maybe a cup of tea a day, or some green tea, or maybe some dark chocolate, but not the full-on coffee. Switch to decaf. So you've still got the ceremony, you can still go out and meet your friends, that kind of thing. Right, so back to the withania. Why the withania is good is that it gives us that energy that we want, but it's a calm energy. We think of it as a ginseng, but it doesn't give you that buzziness that some of the other ginsengs do. So it's a really lovely herb for that reason. So if you're falling asleep at the wheel, things like that, you're worried that you're going to, if you find yourself waking up in the breastfeeding chair, things like that, I would really recommend working on some of the things I've mentioned so far. The last thing I just wanted to say, or two things actually, is that a multi B vitamin, like a multi with lots of Bs in it, is really helpful, even if your B12s come back within range. Make sure you take it with food and only in the mornings. And magnesium. We often think of magnesium as helping us sleep, but it's not a sedative. It's actually very important in the Krebs cycle at the cellular level to help us produce energy. So I would really recommend that you get into some of that as well, if you're really struggling and you've done all the other things. So that's the key thing. Do the basics first, and then if you are still looking for some extra help, you can start to think about some of those additional supplements. In an ideal world, obviously you would talk to your local naturopath or herbalist, someone who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to postpartum care. But generally what I've mentioned today is all completely safe in breastfeeding and postpartum as well. So I wish you well. It really doesn't last forever. I know it feels like it, but you will get through this stage and you'll be full of beans again and be able to achieve all your hopes and dreams, but maybe just not tomorrow. So give yourself some self-care and keep going. You're doing a great job.